Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Weekend Wrap, brought to you by CrowCast, of course. Another good weekend for the Crows, and joining me to talk all about it is none other than our favourite curtain restorer, Maka. How you going, mate?
Really good, thank you, mate. Never touch the curtain, though.
I mean, you know, I'm just dumbfounded by it. I don't understand.
I'll tell Mrs. Mack and she'll kill you.
Will she? She won't be happy?
She can be violent. usually at me.
I don't think I want to know about that. Mac, a good weekend. Good for the Crows to get up and actually overcome the showdown hoodoo, which is a bit of a, you know, that old hangover thing, which is obviously always a bit of a problem with showdowns. But a solid win against slightly disappointing opponent, I guess. With one game to go in the round, we find ourselves in the 8 for the first time in about 100 years.
Yeah, I was shocked to think that. When the round started, I never thought anything about being in the 8, but as it evolved and the results came in, they all resulted in us being in the 8. It might be the one and only time for the year, Fane, but at least we can say we were there.
No, we're going to be there when the whips are cracking, mate. That's been my prediction all along. And I'd see nothing at all to suggest otherwise at this stage. It was a good win, wasn't it?
Well, it was a very good win. It was driven by the captain, in my opinion. I thought he was outstanding. The move to put him in the centre has been absolutely outstanding.
Who would have
thought? Who would have thought, mate? And, look, he got the ball rolling, and we do have a dynamic forward line, and, in our better players, there was Rochelle and Rankin, Walker. There are players everywhere that played well. So up forward. So very dangerous when we get it down there. So
yeah, and finally coming to the attention of the scribes, there was a little article in afl.com.au this afternoon about Adelaide perhaps having potentially the most dangerous forward line in the competition.
I think we do. Carlton, I think Carlton are the ones that rival us for it, because in a different sense, we've got a variety of types of forwards, but they've got two big pillars up there that both can be very, very good on their day. And when they're both good on the same day, they're very, very hard to beat. Yeah,
very true. Very true. And just before we go on too much further, g'day to everyone who's joined us on this Easter Sunday in Discord and also on YouTube. We've got a nice little crowd of 20 on the live stage in Discord, Macca, and as we always say, we're live and interactive. So if you want to come on and have your say, then please, during the course of the podcast, stick your virtual hand up and we'll get you on the virtual stage and you can have a virtual chat with us. And also, obviously, thanks to everyone who supported us on YouTube. Our YouTube numbers are growing steadily, which is fantastic. So if you are new to the channel and you're having your first or second look and you like what you see, please drop us a subscribe and a bit of a like. It really helps us with many things, not the least with getting us up to our target, which is 1,000 subs, which doesn't sound many, but for a little old podcast in Adelaide talking about the little old Crows, Macca, it's not a bad achievement.
I think you've done an outstanding job, Feen, to get as many as you have. You've worked hard at it, and you're getting the results, mate. It rates quite highly nationally, as you pointed out to me. So I think that on top of that, we've got the classiest audience too. No doubt about it.
Well, I've noticed a substantial correlation between an uptick in our viewership and the appearance of your curtains, Mac.
I think that's what does it, actually. I wasn't going to say it, mate, but to me it seems pretty obvious. I just want a big quick question. It's very important. Did you get an Easter egg, mate?
I did get an Easter egg, and I picked up my youngest son just prior to the cast, and got a nice little Kit Kat Easter rabbit, which I will be consuming after. And it took all my willpower not to consume right now.
Well, nobody gave me one, mate, but I had one for no, mate, but I had one I had one each for the grandkids, but I didn't see them, so I ate them myself.
Yeah. I saw my elder son Cam, who some of the viewers might remember from the Rev Up days. I saw him on Thursday night as well as today, and he gave me an egg to pass along to his younger brother, and sadly that didn't make it.
It does happen that way, mate.
It didn't make it. These things happen, Macca. It is what it is.
The disappearing chocolate, yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't know about it yet either. All right, mate, let's straighten up. As I said, thanks to everyone who's listening. We'll try and get things through reasonably quick tonight, as I'm aware that everyone's got, Easter stuff on, and we don't want to be going for 1,000 years on this one, but let's just talk about the weekend's results, shall we?
Yeah.
Thursday night, the Lions, impressive over Collingwood, 33-point winners, 116 to 83.
Interesting fact, thing, which I didn't know before I saw it, was the fact that Brisbane don't lose too often up there. They've won 31 of their past 36 games. So if you're going up to Brisbane and anticipating a win, you're really jumping the odds. But I didn't actually think Collingwood had a chance, actually, with no genuine ruckman in the side. And the guys that they used for their ruckman were their two-star forwards from the previous week. And as a result of that, they were weakened up forward, and they were weakened in the ruck. And that, McInerney must have thought his Christmas had come at once. He's rucking against two guys half his size, and all of a sudden their forwards fired as well. You got the big boys and Hipwood and Danaher, they fired, and they were supported by the smalls on the ground, and they had just too much firepower. And as I say, I thought Collingwood were absolutely crippled before they even went there because of the fact no ruckman and using their forwards up for as those ruckmen. So
they may have to sacrifice the young lad, Macca.
Sorry?
They've got a young lad. They may have to sacrifice the young lad in the twos who's hasn't been going terribly well and is only very young, but they might have to throw him to the wolves, I reckon, just so they can keep their structure.
Yes, because that was the point. They totally lost their structure as a result of that. And they've also got the Chris factor coming up as well.
Yeah, well, that's just bubbling away, isn't it? Could you imagine if that was, I don't know, Tex, for example? Could you imagine how much more coverage that would have got? I mean, really, they've been let off lightly so far, but I don't think it's going to go away.
Well, if it was us, I'd be the journos in Victoria would be calling, for 2-3 years. Losses of the draft picks and $100,000 fine and probably hang Crisp as well. I mean, they're totally. That bloody Damien Barrett about. You did read his comments about touching the umpire. He reckons he should get 2 games for it when the rules say he gets a fine.
It's a bloody dickhead. And just on that, Saligo, for those that don't know, got off with a $1,500 fine and a little slap on the wrist, which is exactly what it should have got. So we move on. Anyway, Carlton over North in the end by 23 points, 107 to 84. Wasn't overly impressed by Carlton, to be honest with you.
No, they had twin towers up forward though. One kicked 6 and the other kicked 4. I mean, Curnow, I think, is the best forward in the competition. There's no doubt about that, in my opinion. Charlie Curnow, that is. And yeah, you know, I understand why you say that they weren't totally impressive because they made a 5-goal break, and I think that's about where it stayed for the rest of the game. So
yeah, I mean, conditions weren't fantastic, and North made it a scrap and all that, but I don't know. I expected them to win by more, to be honest.
yeah, it's only races which I don't know the result of. McKay got reported.
They haven't announced. They haven't announced whether they're going to. So he's been offered 1 week. Carlton have announced. Sorry, go on.
PJ says apparently they are contested.
They are going to contest. It wouldn't surprise me, and it wouldn't surprise if he got off, to be honest with you.
He wouldn't have if he wore our colours. He's got every chance wearing Carlton.
Yeah. Well, and I think it would be the right result for him to get off, to be honest with you. I think it was nothing more than a soft fend. I mean, Cheese will jump straight back up. Yeah,
I think it was more the principle of what he did. He actually had 2 clenched fists, which he actually hit his head with. Not with great.
With his forearm.
I thought he had his arms extended. That's the way I saw it.
No, he hit him with his forearm.
Well, if he does that, then he deserves to get away.
Anyway, we'll see what happens. A good game between Richmond and the Bulldogs. The Bulldogs killing my tips and getting up by 5 points in the end. 89-84 was a pretty enjoyable game, this one, considering, again, the conditions.
Yeah, the conditions, though, they certainly made it. I think they dragged the game down a little bit, but it was a good contest. The Dogs got on top early, then Richmond got 7 goals, unanswered goals, and you thought, gee whiz, the Dogs in real trouble here, but they fought their way back, and eventually they got up to win by 5 points, and just one of the close games for the night.
Yeah, no, it was quite good. Richmond just going. It's a shame that we couldn't get them, over here. I honestly think that if we hadn't come off that oven in Sydney, we would have had a better chance of knocking them off. It would have been nice to put them away, but they're only just going at the moment. A team that is more than just going at the moment is St Kilda, who dispatched Gold Coast by 53 points, 113-60. Didn't see the game, but watching the scores while I was watching the other game that was going, it never seemed close, really.
No, I didn't. We obviously couldn't see this game at the same time as the Sydney Port one, but or whatever other game I was watching. But the Ross Lyon factor, 4 from 4. You wonder whether that would be the case if they hadn't made a change in their coach. He's just got to be very pleased with what he's got at the moment because. I think his main players are starting to run into top form as well. I mean, and he has got his captain out as well, and on the top of that. So, yeah, they're going well. They'll be tested when they play the really top sides. That's when we'll know how good they are.
Yeah, they got a few out. It just goes to show what belief and buy-in can do to a team. I mean, their personnel haven't changed at all, but they obviously have a simple method. They've all bought into it, and they're playing with a bit of confidence, and you can put that down to the coach.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What's next? Oh, this bloody game. Bloody Sydney. So Port getting up by 2 points in the end. Ollie Florent can't even kick over a jam tin. Should never have been this close. Sydney got an absolute armchair ride for most of the night by the umpires, and then Port got a couple of gifts late, and ended up getting up by 2, and Kenny lives again. Yeah,
and I'll tell you what, Kenny was so happy after the game because the Knights would have been out after him if they had lost the game, no matter even if it had been by 1 kick. But God, I just thought he'd be going to have he was getting a bit carried away there, Kenny was there for a while. I was
it was becoming quite intimate, wasn't he?
Very, very, very intimate. I was really frightened what he might get up to. But having said that, I do want to give a big tick, though, to Finlayson, who has had a lot of mental strain and stress on him with his wife with an incurable problem at the moment, and to come in there with he's missed a fair bit of training as well, and he actually kicked 3 goals, and he was the catalyst for their win, in my opinion, right at the end. I just want to absolutely bag Longmire for a moment. To be honest now, I'd like your opinion on this, Fiend. I just think in one way he cost Sydney the game by playing Buddy Franklin all the time. I would have yanked Franklin off because he wasn't making a decent contest thing.
Well, I'll tell you what I would have done with Franklin, and to me Franklin is cooked. He shouldn't be playing this year, and if he doesn't get dropped on that performance, then they're playing for crowds. But what I would have done with Buddy is I would have just forced the matchup with Aaliyah. Obviously, they were trying to free up Aaliyah, so they had some other bloke on him, Cleary or whoever it was, Jonas, on Buddy. I would have made Buddy stand next to Aaliyah and force that matchup. They had to nullify Aaliyah because they were coming into the forward 50 with no particular method, I should say, and half the time just dumping it on Aaliyah's head. And Buddy was as good as useless. Absolutely useless.
I think Longmire faces a hard call because if he's going to keep on playing Buddy Franklin, and I've seen every one of their games so far, and Buddy he's absolutely useless. He's cooked, as you said, and he's going to cost his team through loyalty if he keeps playing Franklin. He's not out there to be buddies. He's out there to win games. And to
be honest with you, mate, I think he's either not fit enough to play the role that he should be playing, which is playing up high, or they're just playing him incorrectly by playing him deep. We're not seeing him get up and down the ground like he is renowned for. And if that's because he's too old he hasn't got it in his legs, then really that's his one wood, and he's pretty much shot. And Sydney, you're right, Mac, are going to have to make a big call. I think the other thing that Longmire has got to really think about is what they do up forward, because apart from Buddy, Logan McDonald he's young like Thilthorpe, and they got Papley, but they don't have much else. Heaney started to find a little bit of form, but the way they connect between midfield and forwards is horrific on that small ground.
But in fairness to Logan McDonald, when Buddy was out, I thought he was playing reasonably well. And I think his game would have developed if they had kept on playing him and not Buddy. But anyhow, that's up to Longmire.
Yeah. The next game this afternoon was an entertaining one. Essendon getting up over the Giants 88-75. I'd really like us to have a dip at Sam Draper, Mac.
You won't, I think he's extended his contract, mate.
Well, that's rude.
Yeah, I think he's extended it, so he's out. As is Will Day, he's out.
Yeah, Will Day's out too. Yeah, I know that was a bit of a blow.
Yeah, so just on this particular game, I just thought Essendon kept GWS in the game with their bad kicking for goal.
Oh, no doubt.
They won by 13 points and they had 13 more scoring shots. And I just don't know what it is about GWS that they've got a lot of talent in their team, but they just underperform.
I do think their midfield this year is starting to look a little bit one-paced, Macca. It's not quite as dynamic as we used to. Kelly and Caniglio's definitely lost a yard. Kelly is nowhere near as dynamic. The young lad Green is carrying a lot of workload there for those other gold-plated players. And I'd be feeling a little bit dark if I was Green, because he's a youngster in that rotation, and he's doing all the heavy lifting. And Kelly at one stage was touted as having a 7-year multi-million-dollar contract put in front of him by a Victorian club. Well, I bet you that club is pretty happy that he decided to stay up at GWS, because he's really tailed off, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, he's a player that has his moments, but I don't think he's got There's been quite a few defections down to Victoria by midfielders, and he used to have a lot more stronger midfield around him, which he also could feed on as well. And he has great skills. So, he's probably finding life a little bit harder.
Yep, and they really they haven't worked out how to use Jesse Hogan up forward. Jesse Hogan was spoilt, I reckon, more times by his own players in that game than he was by the opposition, don't you think?
Yeah, unfortunately for him, he stands out with that horrible dyed hair of his. But yeah, I don't know. Perhaps these teammates don't like it, so they just punch it away from him. But yeah, it was very, very, very disappointing up there. Were disappointing up forward, and Himmelberg, is. I wonder if he's getting sick of playing for that particular team, and he's a free agent at the end of the year. He's a very good player in the sense you can play him forward or back, and I think he would be good for us down back. So I would certainly be after him if I was the Crows. Free agent, you don't have to give up any draft picks.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt that we'd be into him, Macca, I'd say.
I'd hope so.
All right. What's next? The game this afternoon was a pretty average affair. Melbourne 63 points in the end, 126 to the depleted Eagles. Let's be honest, 63. Melbourne doing what they had to do.
Yeah, West Coast made a bit of a game of it for the first half. Even they were only 4 goals down at that stage, but that was it really. And it was the Oliver Petrarca show, surrounded by other good players, and yeah, it was just a quality team versus a team that's got every chance of fighting it out for bottom position.
Well, and to be fair to West Coast, they tried really hard. They're just down on personnel. I mean, you can't have that many players out of your rotations and still be competitive against the recent Premier, I thought they battled hard, West Coast.
Oh, they did, but they just didn't have the talent out there to match Melbourne.
That's right. And, of course, tomorrow we've got, the Monday blockbuster between Geelong sitting 18th on the ladder versus the Hawks sitting 17th on the ladder. Now, it's been a long time since this match has been between these two sides and they've been sitting bottom of the ladder.
That is so funny, Fig. It's just so funny.
Like, you wouldn't read about it.
Well, you'd love Hawthorn to get up and make Geelong Norton 4, but I think probably Geelong should win this game. But you wouldn't want to put money on it.
No, well, you wouldn't want to put money on it. I think the same as you. I think Geelong will get up. But yeah, I don't think it's a certainty by any stretch. I mean, neither team are playing particularly well. But anyway, I don't think I'll be stopping all my chores on Easter Monday to be sitting down and watching this. I might have it on in the background, I think.
I'm a bit of a football junkie, so I'll watch it. But
I know you watch it. You watch everything.
Yeah, I do. I can't help it.
All right, so obviously we're here to talk about the Crows game. Just a reminder before we get onto the Crows game, those in the chat, if you do want to have your say, and g'day to Nuz, who's in the chat. Good to see you, mate, along with everyone else there. If anyone wants to have something to say. Vardy Magic's in the chat, Mac. I don't know what that means, whether we're having an Easter surprise from Vardy or what's going on there.
You mean Vardy to come up here and have a little talk?
Wow.
That would be very good.
Honoured? Would we be honoured? Anyway, let's move on. It was the Crows. 17 goals, 9. Good kicking, 1-1-1. Over 100 points again, which is great. I think we've kicked 35 goals in the last 2 weeks, which is pretty good. Over the Dockers, 10-12-72. A margin in the end of 39 points. Got tightish towards the end of the third and the beginning of the fourth, but by and large, we're in control of the game for most of it.
Yeah, look, we were by far the better team on the day. We jumped them early, and yeah, look, every team has a moment, and they had a couple of moments, but they didn't have too many players apart from Brayshaw and what's the other little fella that they've got in the midfield. He played very well too, but Thank you. Sarong was the other one I had in mind. Those two players did play very well, and Ryan, he played pretty good. But overall, they didn't have a lot of players who were outstanding. They had a lot of guys who underperformed. I think if you go through our team, it would be it wouldn't be so much name the underperformed players. I think you'd have to look hard to find one or two that did really underperform, because I thought they contributed pretty well as a team all day.
Yeah, I agree. There wasn't a lot of surprise in selection. We had Bez come out and obviously Peds come out, and I thought the lads that came in acquitted themselves well, particularly Ned McHenry, who gets a fair smashing on social media and on footy forums and even in our chat. But he came in and did the job that he was there to do, and you get what you get with Ned. And one thing you always get with Ned is 100% effort. And we'll go through some individuals in a little while, but I think it was game high 10 score involvements or something from McHenry, and really that's all you wanted from him, wasn't it?
Yeah, but you can say two things about his game. One was that he gave everything that he had to give, and I thought he played right up to his maximum and had a good game. The sad thing about it is that we took him at such a high pick, and because even with the game he played on the weekend, he wasn't worth that pick. So,
but we've got to move past that, Mac. I've spent all year trying to get you back into 2023 because you just continually want to go back and lament past decisions. Well, those decisions are done now, and once a bloke is in your squad, it doesn't matter what pick he was taken. The fact is that he's just another player on the squad. And yes, I'd like you to go back and have a look at who was taken around McHenry's pick and tell me who was better.
If I went down, I didn't have the time to do it now, of course, but I bet I can come up with quite a few. But that's not the point. We'll move on, Fee, as you say.
Yeah. Well, I think Chase Jones is another one. Chase Jones has been on a slow burn for years, and there's a fair argument to say that he went higher than what he should have. But the fact is that he is now a valuable member of the squad, and whether he's first 22 or just outside the 22, the fact is that we can bring those lads in, McHenry and Jones, when required, and they come in and they do a job, and that's where you know that you've got great depth in your squad. And one of the things our neighbours across the road don't have is a lot of depth in their squad. And I reckon if they were dealing with the amount of injuries and outs that we've had early on, particularly in their forward line, they would be really struggling. But the fact that we can bring in those blokes, Lockie Gallant is another one, comes in over the last couple of weeks and does a really good job. It probably won't hold his spot. Neither will McHenry when Pedler's ready to go again. Jones might. But we've also had Lockie Scholl come back in and play particularly well, I reckon. So it's really good from that perspective that we have blokes on the edge, on the fringes of our squad that aren't necessarily first picked every week, but can come in every week that they're selected and do a job. Lockie Murphy's another one.
Yeah, I agree with what you said there. Jones, just going back on Jones, I think Jones, and I would apply the same comments I made before, but the thing about Jones, this year I can see something different in Jones that I haven't been able to see in previous years. It started to a little bit last year, but this year you can see he's got more belief. And I tell you what, he doesn't lack courage, and he's actually, and his skills are starting to show up as well. I actually thought that Jones played very well.
Yeah, I'd go as far as to say that it was one of his probably top 3 games that he's played for the club, and he continues to improve. What we're getting now is him being involved for longer periods of time in the game. You could say in the past that he's had little flashes here and there, and he's had little cameos. But I felt that he's consistently in the game when he needs to be. He's straight at it. He's hard as nails. And he's got relatively good disposal. His decision-making's always been the question mark and his spatial awareness. But I think, what I've seen this year, whether he's getting used to the structure and whether he's happier playing up the ground a little bit on that wing, I don't know. But I'm enjoying watching him.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. In fact, he's obviously, in my opinion, he's in our... Either if he's on our best 22, he's makes a damn good sub because he's right up to the standard.
Well, I love him as a sub because he can come on. We saw that against Port Adelaide. He came on and instantly went after bloody Lockie Jones and made his presence felt straight away and was champing at the bit to come on. And when he did come on, he made a real impact. So anyway, before we get too bogged down in individuals, let's look at some of the team stats, Mac. 380 to 334 disposals, particularly kicks 222 to 179, handballs about even. Inside 50s were even, but our efficiency inside 50, of course, was far greater. We had 29 shots from 51. They had 21 shots from 51. We've got so many options in front of goal, Mac, at the moment, and we've had those options with not our first pick forward line. So again, the blokes like Lockie Gallant stepping up, Lockie Murphy stepping up, those sort of fellas coming in and playing a role. It's been fantastic. Free kicks heavily in Prio's favour, which surprised me somewhat. Stoppages, as we predicted, Macca, when Riley O'Brien comes up against a real ruckman, he struggled somewhat, and I felt like he came back to earth this week, Riley.
Darcy did him like a dinner. Absolutely did him like a dinner.
And what you notice about Riley is when he starts getting beaten in his tap work, his around the ground stuff drops off. And whereas against Port he was clunking everything, I don't reckon he took one. He was running under the ball. He was grabbing everything. He was great at ground. Like, don't get me wrong. His ability to back up around stoppage and the secondary efforts and all that are fantastic. Really like that about his game, but his primary KPIs were down this week.
Well, Darcy from Freo is a very good ruckman. He is a good ruckman. And the one thing about him, if you really watched it very closely, when Darcy does get a tap, he knows how to direct it to one of their players. And to the credit of some of our players, they actually were working that out and preventing some of the breaks from the centre. But Rob was completely, in my opinion, was completely outright.
Yeah, he was. I thought Phil thought did all right in the ruck when he came in. Clearances overall we were beaten, particularly in the centre, 7 to 12. Around stoppage it was reasonably even, 28 to 32. But then, and this is where I like what Nick's has done over the last couple of weeks, and it's something that we spoke about, Macca, about maybe just trying to break even around stoppage and making it harder for the clearance out of stoppage to be easy for the opposition. And I feel like that's what we're doing, because our contested possession numbers have been positive the last 2 or 3 weeks. Again, this week, 151 to 137. We're able to get the ball on the outside as a result, 224 to 189. I feel like the game that we're playing is that we are not overcommitting around the ground to stoppage and contested situations, and we're just making it harder for the opponent to actually get easy ball out the back and clear runs out of stoppage, which has been a bit of an Achilles heel for us in the past.
Yeah, look, that's always been our Achilles heel. That when they've got a player facing their goals out the back and they shoot the handball out there, but we seem to be awake to it now and finally got a structure that prevents that. So I think that our coaching is improving, and you'd think, I mean, when you're in a coach's position for 3 years, well, I think Nick's has been in before, you'd think you'd be waking up that. But you've also got to have the right players and practice it and drill it and all the rest of it, and they seem to be finally getting their thing.
Yeah, well, I think, look, and if you have a look at the heat map, you can see exactly what we're talking on here. You know, most of our possessions were across that half-back line, whereas Freo were very much concentrated in the middle. We're doing exactly what I thought we might do, which is basically to get a lot of our run and our rebound and our score launches and all that sort of stuff off our half-back line. And I think it's smart. You know, I mean, obviously you want a winning midfield combination, but you've also got to recognise where your strengths are, and I think our strengths are very much around the ground with our effort and our pressure and our ability to cause turnovers, and not so much at particularly centre square situations. And it doesn't surprise me at all that we're getting a lot of stuff off halfback at the moment.
Yeah, I think the two go hand in hand. If you're getting sort of beaten in the centre clearances, which we were, and the ball's going to be going down their end. So if we are then getting attacks from the half-back line, and I thought that Miller had played a reasonably good game. I thought Murray was outstanding down back. I thought we did get a lot of drive, and somebody said that Murray's become one of the best defenders in the league, and I agree with that. I think this guy is just improving out of sight every time he plays a game. And I really would hate to stand him because I reckon he'd hurt you because he's tough and he jumps and he runs. And I was really, really pleased with his game. In fact, I rated him probably our second or third best player. I thought he was that good.
Well, I mean, you've only been doing this show for about 5 years, but again, you're jumping the gun because we're talking about team stats right now.
Well, yeah, that part of the team I was talking about.
I actually, to be honest with you, Macca, I thought if you want to talk about actual value to the team, I thought Murray was our best player, our most valuable player.
I went for second best with Dawson because I thought his impact from the middle was big, and but then once it went down back, I thought Murray was the next one after that.
Yeah, well, he destroyed Taberner. And he destroyed anyone else who got in his way as well. Marks 87 to 61, marks inside 50, 12 to 6, contested 11 apiece, intercept 78 to 71. We led the whole way through. So, defensively, tackles 55, 67, but again, pleasing numbers inside 50, tackles inside 50, 12 to 11, which is good. 1% is fairly even. Don't take much notice of that. So, look, it was a very, very even performance, Macca. And I think that's probably what I found the most pleasing. And not only that, I felt like the seniors were in and out of the game. I thought Sloan had a good second half. It was just solid. Tex, I thought, was poor until he got a couple off the deck. Brody Smith gave us Brody Smith things. But I thought it was our young lads that really led the way. You know, Rochelle, Rankin, Dawson in the guts. I thought Saligo was good. Chase Jones, Murray down back, Michael Annie, Lockie Gallant. You know, we're starting to talk about names now that would have been on the fringe, and you'd have a big reaction if they played well one week. But they're now starting to be the heart and soul of the team, and it's now the senior players, apart from probably Rory Laird, who's still integral, I would imagine, senior players that are playing the cameo roles rather than the juniors playing the cameo, and that's a real transition now. That's what tells me this team's ready to go another step.
Well, you mentioned Michael Annie, and what I do like about him, he was standing as a very small man. I mean, a guy who can be really dynamic and kept into virtually nothing. And yet, next week he could be standing at tall and he will do very well. This guy's going to become an outstanding footballer for the next 10 years, I reckon.
Michael Walters has a habit of absolutely cutting us up, Macca. And yes, he's getting a little bit old and all the rest, lost a yard, but he's still a crafty bugger. And Max blanketed him. And not only that, got ball himself. He was more than willing to chance his arm and take the game on. He didn't sort of sit back and just play a defensive role by any stretch. And I thought his game was excellent. In fact, let's have a look quickly at Mr. McElhenney, because we will spend a bit of time talking through some of these guys tonight. So Max, he had 16 disposals, 9 and 7. Took 5 marks. What's going on there? This is going a bit crazy. 9 contested possessions, 7 uncontested possessions, only turned the ball over 4 times, 10 intercept possessions though, Macca. And this is what I mean, that he was willing to come off Walters and actually be aggressive with the way he took the game on. And that's the bit that pleased me the most about his game. It wasn't just that he blanketed Walters, but he actually had a positive impact on the game as well.
Can you see a rising star for him this week?
Oh, look, just on body of work, Mac, I reckon. We know that the rising star noms are often an accumulation of a few weeks. There's some bloody good first-year players. Sheasel obviously is a standout so far this year, but Max definitely deserves a gong this week. I think for the body of work for the first 4 weeks, the scalps that he's taken, and the positive impact that he's had on games, absolutely deserves a nod in my opinion, and will get one, if not this week, over the next few weeks.
I agree.
He had 1 goal assist, 2 score involvements, took 5 marks, 1 contested. He had 8 pressure acts, was on the ground, was that about 80% of the time. 200 metres gained, got a clearance, 2 tackles, 2 inside 50s, 2 rebound 50s. Pretty good. You'd have to be proud if you were Jim at the moment, and he plays a lot like Jim, doesn't he? He's just hard, and he's straight at it, and he's uncompromising, and he gets the job done, doesn't he?
Well, he showed that when he got cleaned up by Port Adelaide. He got hit down the front, which, interestingly enough, was not considered to be a reportable offence, although it was from McAdam.
God, you live in the past. It wasn't anywhere near like McAdam's.
No,
McAdam's was a shirt front. Marshall was going for 2 blokes going for the ball. But move on, old man.
You're kind.
Move on with your curtains.
Yeah, and I'll tell the wife who said that. But coming back to McElhenney, you throw me there for a minute. The reason I raise that is to show that he got taken off because he really been cleaned up. He came back pretty quickly, and he went right back on with his game again, which just shows how good he is.
Yeah. All right. Who else should we have a look at? Let's have a look at Isaac Rankin, because I thought Ranks was pretty good once again, obviously. The thing I like about Isaac is he's getting ball up the ground, even though most of his work is, up forward where we want it to be. But I think he had 13 disposals inside forward 50, which I think is the most of any player for the round. 10 kicks, 5 handballs, 6 marks, 5 tackles, 3 goals, 2, Mac.
Yeah, no,
pretty much all in the front half.
Yeah, I really liked his game. And I think he had to be high in our best players too, because, as you say, he worked the forward lines all over it, and sometimes within scoring range, sometimes not. But he, as his girl said, he was not selfish. He played well. He did, because he wasn't just playing for goals. He was playing for the team. I thought he played well.
Agreed. He's really bought in. You can see it a mile off. He's really enjoying being at Adelaide. He's bought into the culture. He's bought into the team and what's going on. Look, the things that I like: 9 contested possessions, Macca. 9 score involvements, 6 marks, 6 inside 50s. 291 metres gained. So, I mean, that's such an interesting stat, considering that most of his numbers occurred inside forward 50. But he still managed to gain 291 metres, so that's an interesting stat. He had 1 clearance around stoppage, 5 tackles though, 3 of them inside 50. It just exactly the kind of game that you want from a bloke like him. He can be explosive, he can be aggressive, he can do things around goal that you don't expect, that are very hard to combat, and it's exactly the type of game that you want from him.
Yeah. What was interesting is that Rankin and Rochelle with their little goal celebrations, and I'm just talking about Rankin in particular at the moment. When he's near, he kicks a goal. He's kicked a goal, and when he's near Walker, he does some little two-step dance or something. I can't work out what he's doing, as opposed to Rochelle, who does his big punches all over. Well, I don't know what that.
You're a bit old for that. You're a bit old for that sort of stuff, mate.
I know you're really young, mate. So you tell me what it is.
Well, it's just a little foot tap thing. It's like a low five with the feet.
I think I was saying that. I don't.
Anyway, let's have a look at Geordie Dawson. As you said, Macca, probably our best, even though I had a soft spot for Muzz's game. 27 disposals, 20 kicks, 7 handballs. That's the bit that I like about Geordie. It's not a Matty Crouch 35 disposal, 20 handballs, 15 kick thing. It's 20 valuable kicks. His metres gained we'll get to in a second, but they're valuable kicks. They're not just little sideways pokes or whatever. They're decisive. 7 handball, 5 marks, 6 tackles, kicked a goal, a very timely goal as it was in the third quarter. Bit of an unfortunate heat map there from Geordie. We'll move on that one. Disposal efficiency with those 27 disposals, Macca, 96% disposal efficiency.
That is unreal at AFL level. That is just unreal.
When you're kicking the ball and you're not kicking it sideways, you're actually kicking it forward. To have 96% disposal efficiency is almost unheard of. 13 contested possessions, 14 uncontested. Only turned it over 3 times. 6 intercept possessions, 1 from 1 goals. Obviously, 5 score involvements, 5 marks. What was it doing? That 16 pressure acts. Spent 80% time on ground, or 75. 598 metres gained from the middle. Now, we're used to seeing those sort of numbers from a Brodie Smith or a Paul Seisman or someone off half-back, Macca. But aside from, halfway through the third quarter when he got thrown back a little bit and we put Shuey on, he was playing midfield. And to get 598 metres gained from a midfield spot with that amount of contested ball is just fantastic.
Yeah, unbelievable, really. And, the footy gods were very kind to us when North Melbourne knocked back our 3 first-rounders to get Horn Francis, because we ended up getting Dawson, Rankin and Rochelle with those 3 picks. So what an outstanding trio of players to get.
Dare I say it, a sliding doors moment, Macca? We'll wait and see on that one.
Absolutely sliding doors moment. Absolutely.
Yeah, 5 clearances, 5 round stoppage, 6 tackles, 5 inside 50s, 5 rebound 50s. So, front and back half. Just an all-round good game from Geordie. Loved his work. He's such an asset to our team. He changes everything, and he makes us difficult to play against, Mac. And I'm starting to see it in the media, and I'm claiming it because I said it 3 weeks ago. He's our big-bodied midfielder. I heard Ricciuto say it on the cast, so I thought, Mark, you're 2 weeks late. He is our big-bodied midfielder. The end.
I have to admit, Pete, you did.
You don't have to admit it. You can just admit it.
Begrudgingly.
You can acknowledge it and just be happy about it.
I was not going to begrudgingly.
Chase Jones, 21 disposals, 17 kicks, 4 handballs. Again, exactly the kind of stats you want from Chase because he's a kicker, right? You want him kicking the ball. 6 marks, 2 tackles. Pardon me. Went at 71 disposal efficiency, which is fine. Had 5 contested possessions, 17 uncontested possessions, which is pretty good because it shows that he's playing that position the way you'd want him to play Macca. He's getting himself free and being a bit of a conduit in our transition. But we know that when he needs to go, he goes hard and hurts bodies. So that's good. Only 1 turnover, 2 intercepts, 7 score involvements. What else we got here? Again, 365 metres gained, which is good from the wing. A couple of tackles, 4 inside 50s, 3 rebound 50s. So again, just really, I really have started to enjoy watching Chase play. And I'm pleased for him because there's a lot of pressure when you're a first round pick, Mac, and he didn't have a very auspicious beginning to his career, and he's been played in a number of different positions, and he's had a lot of noise going on from the supporter base, including our podcast. Credit where it's due, that kid has just put his shoulder to the wheel and he's forging himself an AFL career, and good on him.
Yeah, look, I 100% endorse what you're saying there, Fiend. I mean, like other Crow supporters, we've been a bit rough on him at times, but to the kid's credit, he's just kept working away, and he's really now starting to show us why we did draft him in the first place, because he is tough, and he has got skills, and he's got pace, and I thought he played very, very well. And at the moment, as I say, he deserves to be in the team. He's playing well.
Now, Nuz has asked the question, how the F do I put my hand up? It's technology, mate. I'll actually invite you on, Nuz. There you go. So all you've got to do is click the little button there and you can come on and say g'day. How you going, mate?
Very good. Can you hear me?
The dulcet tones.
Should I sing a song?
If you want to.
You should do your own podcast. You should do your own podcast. Yeah, get off.
Yeah, you know what?
Oh, that's a bit of a stretch, isn't it?
I don't know, maybe Macca could join me on that podcast as well on occasion.
Oh, could you please take him? I've had a gutful.
Well, his ratings went up when I was on there, Fiend.
They actually did, yeah. No,
did they?
One of them was the second highest rated ever, so...
How does that make you feel, Nuz?
Well, I don't know. Look, I like to look at the positives in life. So
yeah.
What it does is means you were very astute. That's what you should have said, Nuz, because you had the foresight to see it.
Exactly. Look, they always say you should trade high. They always say you should trade high, Nuz. So if you want him, we can do a deal. I'll trade him at the top of the market.
Done for pick 27. All right. Well, what do we talk about? I mean, the game, obviously, like, people can finally stop being, I guess, so ranty about how bad we are, because we could see snippets of how good our game plan actually was, even against Richmond and GWS. And now we've done it for 3 quarters and 3 quarters again, and that's usually enough to get you over the line against, middle of the road opposition. And the real challenge this week is going to be Carlton, 5-day turnaround, who are second or first on the ladder. And if we can beat them, what did we beat them last year? By 29 points. If we can do that again, I mean, what else do we have to complain about? Nothing, in my opinion.
Do you think we will, though?
Well, Harry McKay being out, definitely a help. But
I don't think he'll be out, Nuz.
Oh, you think he'll? Yeah.
He'll get
probably.
Off.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. They'll bring it down to something how annoying, but and that brings another question with our defence about what list holes we have moving forward, because really at the moment we've got a really good core, and even you said before the depth of Jones and McHenry. They're not even in the best 22 half the time, but when they come in, they get 21 disposals, 22 disposals. That hasn't happened for 6 years. A long time. So it's really exciting. That will change as our list develops, and we need to pay better players, more money, like Pedler, Rochelle, Soligo. We need to double their contracts, and then we'll, obviously have our list misbalances in the future. But let's just take advantage of it while we can. Try and plug as many list holes as we can. But I think defence is one of them. Brennan Cox obviously played against us, and he's probably someone we need to go after in 2 years' time. But apart from that, Now Dawson's gone into the midfield. As you alluded to, the big body midfielder, the proof's in the pudding. And how much better and more balanced do we look when he's in the midfield, around the ground?
And he's a sneaky mongrel, Nuz. Like, he looks like the college boy. He's quiet and unassuming and all the rest of it. But as my son said to me today, and I won't use the word that Cam said, but he's a hard nut in the middle. He doesn't take a backward step. He stands up in tackles. He gets his arms free. He plays not nasty, but he plays hard. And you don't expect it from Geordie. I certainly didn't expect it when he first came into the team. He looked like a very clean sort of, outside sort of player. But he's much, much more than that.
Yeah. Do you think he'll go on Cripps? Because he towed us up. He got 41 touches last time he played us. Do you think it's fair to say that Dawson goes head-to-head?
I would think a little bit of a waste of him, wouldn't it be, enough? You'd actually try and put somebody on him who is not your number one midfielder. I think we might be forced to do that, but I'm hoping that maybe somebody could cut him down and let Dawson have his own effect on the game.
I think Dawson's so good that he could almost, do that running off him as well, because Cripps isn't known for getting around the ground. He's brilliant around the stoppages, and that's where he's the most dangerous, extracting the ball and giving it to the smaller players. And if Dawson can even negate him 30%, I think we're well on our way to victory there, because then we'll have first touch of the ball. That's just my opinion.
Now, the thing with this conversation is, Nuz, I should have given you the running sheet, because we haven't even finished talking about the Freo game, and you're talking about the bloody Carlton game.
Oh, apologies. Sorry. Back to Fremantle. Yeah, they're a terrible club. Who cares? It's nothing. They just, I don't know. I just think I'll put them in the same basket as Gold Coast and GWS, of just like we have spite. We were created out of a necessity, out of South Australia and history. Fremantle, because it was kind of a large city and it had two kind of good clubs, and the colours were terrible. I don't know.
No. Fremantle have as much heritage as Port Adelaide. Like, don't sell that short. That.
Well, they do in the waffle, but that's South Fremantle and East Fremantle, so that's two clubs combined.
Yeah, but there was a Fremantle footy club as well.
No, not from. Well, there was actually Fremantle on its own. Oh, I recall. Anyway, we'd have to look into that.
No,
there was going back a few, not towards the end, but like early doors. But look, there's a lot of football tradition in Fremantle. I don't know what it is about that club, and I'm going to put something up there that's controversial. I think it's a stupid colour that they chose.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Because just like Christian Brothers College, who I also despise, and anyone listening who used to play for CBC, you can get stuffed, because I hated that bloody team, and they were purple as white as well, and like it was a clear 2-goal advantage before you even bloody started playing against CBC, and I'd imagine it'd be the same with Freo. How could you, with any sort of clear conscience or semblance of bloody self-worth, run around in a purple Guernsey?
I have to agree with everything you said. Oh, look, Fremantle have got some issues because they've recruited heavily. They got O'Meara, obviously didn't come expensively, but they've invested a lot in him, and Jackson, of course, who really hasn't done a whole lot at all. And then you have to argue that they've gone a bit backwards. So where are they at? Have we leapfrogged them? I don't know. Maybe we have.
I think we have.
Is it leapfrogged or leapfrogged?
Oh, I'm not sure. I'll blame the concussion on that one.
Yeah, but I do think we have does in the sense that they really didn't need Jackson either. I mean, to pay out what they did to get Jackson when they have a very good ruckman in Darcy, very good ruckman, and they had a very good backup in young Lloyd Meek as well down there. So it was just burning good picks to get somebody, and the partnership between Darcy and Jackson hasn't worked that well because Jackson was never a star ruckman with Melbourne. It was really Gordon as a star, and he'd come in there and have a bit of a stint and go back to forward again. So,
hang on a minute. Jad in the chat makes a very good point. And Nuz, I'm going to have to kick you out in the middle because this all started with you. Like, first we start talking about next week's game, and now we're talking about a bloody club that it's not the bloody Dockers cast, it's the Crows cast. Can we just straighten up a bit?
Absolutely. I've got a great stat for you, but does Fremantle even have their own podcast? I don't even think they would.
It actually rates better than ours. It rates better than both of ours. Yeah, well, on iTunes it does anyway.
Kudos to them. All right. Well, that's a good segue. We are leading the disposal efficiency by the next best by 4%, 56% inside 50 efficiency. And the average is usually high 40s, and we're 56 at the moment. The way our forward line is clicking, thanks to Rahili and Walker obviously telling everyone what to do and where to go, is it's phenomenal. It's great to watch.
Well, is it sustainable? Is this? Are we creating? So let's not drink the bathwater, but let's talk about this for a second. Richmond created their own style. Hawthorn created their own style. Geelong created their own style. Are we creating our own style for the way football is going to be played over the next few years? Because it's not dissimilar to Collingwood in terms of ball use and all the rest of it. But the amount of... I don't think I've seen a forward line so stacked with goal kickers from any team for quite some time, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, every club that's ever won a flag has created their own style. So if we are to be successful, you're right. Matthew Nicks will have had to have created his own style, which involves high efficiency going forward, ravenous forward 50 kind of tackling, which we didn't see against GWS, but for obvious reasons, and a wave after wave of pressure. So if we are to win a flag, then Matthew Nicks will be that genius who's created a new game plan.
Well, has he created a new game plan, or has he just been very astute in assessing the squad and designing a way to play that maximises our strengths, which is what I've been bloody crying out for a coach to do for years, to actually look at our squad and go, right, here's our strengths and weaknesses, let's play to our strengths instead of trying to, which I think is what Don Pike did, trying to force a squad to play a certain way based on a coach's philosophy.
I think it's a bit of both, because a lot of the players that you see now that are playing under Nicks have been recruited by him and Tim Silvers. When they, at the first minute they came into the club, they did Phil Thorpe from Pedler in that draft. So, and those people are now really, embracing that game plan that he's brought. And obviously the others have struggled a little bit. You can see some doing well, some others falling behind a bit. But there's no coincidence in my mind that it's a combination of he's drafting the right players for his game plan that he's now putting onto the map. Because every coach, you'd have to be a little bit arrogant in thinking that I'm the best coach out there, I'm going to win a flag, and I've got things that I know that will outcoach someone else. And that's just how all 18 coaches would think, surely, because otherwise why be a coach?
Yeah, I think I'm agreeing with Nuz, because I think that there's no such thing as the perfect game plan, because it depends on what players you've got. I think that Nicks has had an idea or a goal where he wants to go to, and as Nuz says, that we've recruited players that fit that style, and we've actually got, if you look at the players we've brought in over the last 2 or 3 years, that they've been all good players that do actually fit that style. So I think he has got a certain game plan, style that he wants to play, and that we have recruited in the last 2 or 3 years. We've recruited to that. Is that what you see, though?
Yep, absolutely.
Now, before this becomes a sensible CrowCast, Nuz,
you can keep me on.
How are you feeling, mate?
Yeah, I have my good days and bad days. I came on tonight because I was feeling particularly all right. Had a rough day today because I was doing a bit of wood chopping and that knocked me for six. But after that, I was fine. And yeah, so thank you for asking. I appreciate that. But it's just a slow burn. So I'm hoping
Yeah.
to contact the club. And if Paul Seedsman ever wants to chat, I'd love to have a chat with him about that. It's a touchy personal subject, but it would be really good, especially modern day. I mean, we just saw Paddy McCartan slightly knock his head on the ground, like
Oh, terrible.
innocuously, and it was just awful. And we're finally getting more education about it now, and I'm even doing my own research as well. And I've had a few head knocks from footy in the past. That obviously doesn't help getting my latest one. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's just it's just slow road. And so I'll be doing couple of less podcasts this year, and hopefully next year back to full time.
All the best,
Well,
mate.
mate, we wish you well. You're always welcome on our podcast, and we look forward to the next episode that you release yourself. I'll send you my my terms for please take Macca. Can you please take Macca? So my terms are very favourable.
Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, look,
thanks for having me, and really appreciate that I could be on the cast tonight. And if anyone else wants to put their hands up, go for it. It's great to be on. So thanks again, guys.
See you later, James.
Now get off. Right. Great to have Nuz on, as always. He is sensible, and it really annoys me because we've tried to build a brand around not being sensible Macca, and then he comes up and says shit that makes sense, and it's like, well, that kills the whole premise.
Yeah, but I'm not sure they pick it out there, mate. I'm not sure. I'm only joking.
Anyway, let's continue on now that we've been thrown way off. Anyway, Ned McHenry, 22 disposals, 12 kicks, 10 handballs, 4 marks. Did most of his work forward of centre. 64% disposal efficiency, 8 contested possessions. He had 6 turnovers, unfortunately, 5 intercept possessions, but 10 score involvements, Mac, and 3 goal assists. Probably tells you all you need to know about Ned's game, really.
Yeah.
And as we were saying before, you're going to get what you're going to get from Ned, and Lockie Murphy, for that matter. By no means do I think that Lukey Pedler is any chance of being kept out of the side by Ned McHenry. But all Ned can do when he gets a chance is play a game like that. That's all he can do. And, when you're going on an upward curve and, it's clear that we are going into an upward cycle, it's sometimes difficult to be on the fringes, but all he can keep doing is putting his hand up when he gets called up. And you never know what happens. There's some blokes that have been very, very lucky and played it, like Aaron Keating comes to mind, that are in the right place at the right time. So McHenry needs to take his chances when they're presented, and I thought he took his chance on the weekend.
Yeah, and look, he's going to be very hard for him to get into the 22, but he is definitely a guy that could easily be the sub. Because that if he comes on, at least he's going to give you 100% and will fight like hell. So, and I think he did his chances no harm for that sort of thing.
Yep. No, agree 100%. And as someone pointed out in the chat, it's refreshing that we have a situation where, we can talk positively about McHenry, Jones and Lockie Murphy in the same game. Let's quickly look at Murphy. I thought he was a little bit quieter this week than he was last week. 14 disposals, only 6 kicks, 8 handballs, 2 marks, 2 tackles. Didn't kick a goal. Most of his work up high. And this is the value of Murphy. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. He is not a small forward. He is a stoppage machine, in my opinion. And where they play him up around stoppage, they play him high and get him around stoppage, he provides real value, Macca, because he allows us that extra grunt around stoppage situations.
Well described, Fane. That's 100% because, he's not that dangerous forward around goals, as you say. Definitely up higher.
Yeah. So, and that's where he did a lot of his work. He had 4 contested possessions. As I said, didn't hit the scoreboard, but had 6 score involvements, a couple of marks. So, look, again, he's not going to... I don't consider him best 22. I consider him best 26, probably. But again, the fact that he's been able to come in over the last couple of weeks and do a job, play a role, and do it well. And, you've got situations where some opposition calls for certain setups, and I think that, again, Murphy's doesn't do himself any harm when he quits himself the way he has over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, look, I think he's had a very good year. He's taken every opportunity he's been given this year, and he's one that again is he definitely comes in when we've got an injury, and sometimes he'll be in there on his own merit.
Yeah, let's have a look at Josh Rochelle. 20 disposals, 14 and 6, 3 marks, 2 tackles, kicked 3 goals, 1, but did a lot of his work up the ground, Macca. He only had 6 possessions inside forward 50 for 3 goals, 1. Had a lot of his possessions up around the wing. He really has developed into more than just a pinch-hitting midfielder, in my opinion, Mac. Had 6 contested possessions, 15 uncontested. Turned it over a bit. He's got to work on that disposal efficiency. He had 9 turnovers. But as I said, 3 goals himself, 7 score involvements, and 21 pressure acts and nearly 400 metres gained. And I actually thought he attended more, but 10 centre bounce attendances. But he's doing a lot of good work up the ground, mate.
Yeah, he came as we drafted him thinking we were drafting him as a forward. He made it very clear that he thought he was a bit more than that, and he's actually showing he's a bit more than that, because every game he plays, you see him floating sometimes right down into the back lines as well. So, and he's getting more and more CBAs, and so he's been a very good draft pick. And he and Rankin have formed a good reaction, as we call it, a combination. Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. There is quite good chemistry at the moment inside. You don't want blokes to get ahead of themselves. I don't mind the celebrations and the camaraderie and all that, as long as they continue to make it about team and not about individuals. And I think, from what we've seen at the moment, it is very much a team-oriented effort, which is great to see. And there's no doubt that he provides a spark. When he wants the ball in his hands, and when he gets the ball, something usually happens.
Agreed.
Let's have a look at young Riley Thilthorpe, because he played a very different game this week to what he played previously. He was far more mobile, had 18 disposals, 10 kicks, 8 handballs, took 9 marks, 2 tackles and kicked a goal. Spent probably 50% of his time outside of the forward 50. In fact, he only had 2 of his disposals inside the 50-metre arc, Mac. 11 contested possessions, 6 uncontested, 4 intercept possessions, 6 score involvements, 5 contested marks, which is probably what pleases most people in terms of his development. And I just felt, 11 ruck contests for 4 hit-outs. We know what he can do at ground level. We know how good he is beneath his knees. That goal that he kicked was poetry and made everyone else look stupid, just running around them like that. He's such a talent. He's such a talent, mate.
Look, he is an absolute talent, because I actually really, really liked his game too, because you can play him from the goal square, you can play him at centre half forward, you can play him on the ruck, and you can play him behind the ball. And, actually his marking, he's come back with a lot of confidence, hasn't he, Feeney? And he's actually grabbing the ball clean.
Yeah. He's attacking the ball. He's taking the ball in front of his eyes, Macca. He's still, every now and again you'll notice that he gets bustled out of a contest. But whereas that would sort of render him useless in that contest, now he's kind of staying with a little bit more. and that'll continue to progress as he gets more strength. But he's tracking really well.
Yeah, no, I think he's going to end up being a real one of the stars of the competition long term.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Who else can we have a look at? Let's have a look quickly at Wayne Miller, because I probably thought it was Junior's one of his better games for a while, even though it wasn't fantastic. He had 9 and 9, 5 marks, kicked a goal. Went at 72% disposal efficiency, 6 intercept possessions, 4 uncontested marks, metres gained 200. I just felt like there was just a little bit there that we haven't seen. Pardon me. A little bit more, what am I going to say, a presence of mind from Junior that we probably haven't seen for a little while.
Yeah, look, he's had a sort of on-off career. You know, he's not always been around. He gets a lot of injuries and that. But I thought that he actually looked like Miller of old when Miller was playing well. So I think he hit form in that game, and I hope he can go on with it and maintain the standard.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of Junior, to be honest. But he can do some good things, and if he can just continue to build on that and be more like not panicky, not dump kicking, but actually using the ball positively, using his agility to get through situations, and offer us a little bit more defensively, Macca. That's probably my knock on him when he's playing off half back. Then I guess he stays in. Of the rest, I thought Tom Duday played all right. I thought Mitch Hinge had a weird old game because a lot of what he did was good, but he had some really weird brain fades by foot. Like one there where he did a double pirouette and got himself out of trouble, and then absolutely laced out the Fremantle guy.
Yeah,
who the hell were you kicking it to, Mitch?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a real Mitch Hinge fan. I love him. I think he's just a down-to-earth, solid, passionate footballer, but he wants to just address his disposal a little bit.
Yeah, look, he's a good player, and he had one of those mixed days where he did some good things, but he did some really outstandingly horrible things as well. So he's better than that.
Yeah, I mean, the wind was playing havoc a little bit, and I think in the second quarter there, or maybe the first quarter it was, I can't remember, where he sort of ran in front of the pack to spoil, and the ball carried everyone and went through. And that looked bad for Mitch, but I think everyone was misjudging that wind at that point. But a couple of his kicks they weren't wind affected. I don't know what they were. But I like him in the side. I think he adds an element of toughness inside in the back line, and when he's on song, his disposal out of defences can cut a team up real quick. So let's just hope he can improve that little area of his game. Who else?
We'll just say, as it was said in the chat, he had a bit of a Brody game.
Yeah, one of those. Yeah, Lucky Shoal played well, I thought. I'm glad for the lad. I was happily ready to write him off as a Rory Atkins clone, but he's come in and done everything asked of him, Macca.
In fact, the coach singled him out after the game and made the point about he was very happy with the way Shoal was playing, and what he's really saying, but not saying, is that the boy's got heaps of skill, but he used to squib it, and at the moment he's not doing that. And he's actually playing as he should play and going for the hard balls as well. And, I thought he had a good game.
There was only one situation, it was on the member side wing, where there was a Crows player and I think 2 Fremantle players sort of chasing the ball out onto the wing and running at Lockie, and a different player, Macca, would have run to meet that ball. But what he did, he sort of kept backtracking, waiting for the contest to happen so that he could be that outside player. And I thought at the time, I can deal with that, but I would have liked to have seen what Chase Jones would have done in that situation, because I think Chase would have just split the pack open. Do you recall the contest?
I do, and I think if you're right, if it had been a Chase Jones, he would have gone straight at it. But look, that was the only incident I could think for the day where Scholl could have gone harder, and and the knock on him has never been his ability or his kicking. I mean, he's a beautiful kicker of the foot. It's only been that one particular factor, and I think at the moment the coach, as I said, singled him out for comment, and so he must be happy with him at the moment.
Yeah. And look, to be fair, Scholl ended up with the ball in that situation, so it might have been good that he didn't overcommit. I don't know, but it's just an interesting study of two different types of players playing at the same position. Had it been Jones, and had Jones overcommitted and not taken the ball with him, then Freo could have been out. So, it's an interesting one to compare. As I mentioned, Muzza had a really good game. I would have put him easily in our top three.
I love that.
Geordie Butts still doesn't look right. I really liked the move that Nick's made. A lot of people were annoyed because it involved Geordie Dawson going back down to half back, but I actually thought it was a really good move to make, to bring Butts off when Freo reconfigured a little bit, and to bring Harry into the middle and put Geordie down back. I actually felt like that was an astute move to make by Matthew Nicks. Yeah,
I totally agree with it. And surely Butts is carrying an injury, because he's not a
he's got a shoulder. He's carrying a shoulder.
Right, but he doesn't even look happy out there. He just looks like quite miserable out there. And because we need him at his best. And at the moment, you're right. I think that was a good move, because Butts he's not firing at the moment.
Well, they went a little bit smaller, and I think it was very good of Nicks to counter that. And I don't mind them in those circumstances where we've got the game under control, and you're just trying to, and momentum's going to shift at some point. I actually think it's a bad idea for Nicks to try and shut the game down for a period of time, which is, I think, pretty much what we tried to do in the third. They lifted their intensity, and we were good enough to go with them, and scoring kind of dried up. So I wasn't disappointed with that at all. I actually think that Jordan Butts is going through a period where Burgess is teaching him how to play with injuries, which is a big thing that Burgess is big on. I don't know whether Geordie Butts would necessarily be the type that would naturally be very good at that, and I actually think that's what's going on at the moment.
Yeah, I think you summed it up very well there, Fane.
Having said that, they might have also decided that 3 and a bit quarters is enough, and we've got Harry and Charlie to deal with next week. I want to see Muzz run through Harry McKay. I don't care if he gets 6 weeks for it.
No, I don't want him to do that, because he does hurt people anyhow without trying to. I mean, when he goes hard, and he's a hard unit. He's a country boy.
Oh, yeah, he come from nowhere. So, look, it really was an all-played well situation. I don't think there's anyone else that we really need to look at. Lockie Gallant kicking 2 goals, 1 from 8 posies up forward, provided a target. I've always been a fan of Lockie. I hope that we can hang on to him, because I think that when Tex finally gives it up, he's a natural to step into that role. Shane McAdam also isn't getting any younger, and I think Lockie Gallant could turn into a very effective Jack Gunston-like forward, if you ask me.
He's a very unlucky guy, isn't he? Because at the moment, we seem to be finding forwards of his type, and yet when he gets his chance, he always takes it. So he's a bit stiff.
Well, he's a natural player, Macca. He's like the first game that I saw him play, it stood out how you get some blokes that just know how to mark the ball, and he just jumps at the ball, and sometimes he will get to balls that he's out of position to get to, and he's just a natural aerialist in my opinion, and a little bit more strength, upper body strength to be able to hold his position a little bit more in contested situations will be to his benefit. But he's good kick, and and he's got good agility and fitness and all the rest of it, and he plays quite tall. I do hope that we can hang on to him.
Yeah, I totally agree. Totally agree.
I don't think Harry did too much when he came on. Continues to be perplexing, Harry. I don't know what to say about him. I think he's got all the tools, and I don't know what's going on there.
Well, something's going on because this isn't what he was last year, and
well, it was last year. The year before he was good. Last year he was off. Remember?
Yeah, but he came on. I don't think he added very much when he came on either. And so it's they say in the chat, they're not currently in our best 22, and I think that's sad because at his best he'd be one of our better players, but he's really off at the moment.
Yeah, and even the game that he had in the SANFL was kind of a lazy 32 possession game, if that's possible, if you know what I mean. Like, it was very much a kid who was above the level, and who knew he was above the level. So whether there's still some stuff that he needs to work on around his discipline, not so much in terms of his off-field stuff, but is the way he like his running patterns during games and his positioning during games and his ability to stay in the contest and all the rest of it. I still think he's got loads of natural ability, but he comes from an country environment where they just run around and get the agate, and coming into a structured environment and playing structured footy just may not suit him, or it just may be taking a while for him to adapt to that. I'm not sure.
Well, I think he's got loads of talent, but I'm just very disappointed with his output. It's just not, and he's not. It doesn't necessarily putting himself in the right spots, or when he does get it, he's not necessarily doing the right thing with it. And so, but I just hope he gets it right because he has got talent, and at the moment it's just not there. He's just not producing at the moment.
I think what Scoot says is right. We can afford to be patient with Harry. I think there's enough there. We saw enough just in his first year to understand that, there's a footballer there. I remember the first year, his ability to put players into space and to put the ball to the advantage of players was almost elite. And you thought, gee, if he can get the ball 25 times a match and do that, he'll be fantastic. I'm not sure whether he understands his role at the moment, or how to play the role that he's been asked to play. And I also still think that he needs to grow into his body. I still think he's carrying a bit of puppy fat and needs to be a bit harder, a little bit stronger. So I don't know.
Well, anyway. I don't think he'll be in next week.
Well, you'd think that we're going to have. We will have Pedler back. I'm not sure how Bez is tracking with that calf. They tend to be 2 or 3, Mac. So I reckon he might stay in as the sub.
Well, is McCann available this week or next week?
Oh, actually, you're right. I think McCann got done in. Yeah. McCann is back next week.
So I'm sure he'll come back in, and Pedler comes back in. So they're the two that I think will come in.
Maybe Fogarty.
I wouldn't rush Frog unless his legs unless that knee is 100%. I mean, there's no need to.
Agree.
So, because we still got a good structure, whether he's in there or not. So, to me, I would bring in McAdam, and I would. Sorry, who's that? I just said, Pedler. Yeah, those two, and that means two go out, and well, you've got the sub taking it as a 23. I would definitely drop Schomburg, and there's got to be one other goes, and it's probably going to be the little fella, I suppose.
Well, Ned might end up being a sub. I wouldn't mind that because, again, he's a bit of an impact player, so he can come on and play a role. The other one that may end up being sub is Lockie Murphy. One of those two has to come out for Pedler, in my opinion. It'll be interesting to see if they stay with Gallant and bring in McAdam as well as Gallant, so we end up with Gallant, McAdam, Thilthorpe and Tex, which is a fairly tallish forward line, Macca. And there may be a bit of a fear that McAdam might be a bit underdone. So I don't know. The selection is going to be pretty important this week. I agree with you. I don't think Harry survives. The other one that's going to be interesting is if they decide to tinker with defence at all. Look, of the senior players, I think the one that is not performing is Brodie Smith. I thought, again, Smith did Smith things, and, he's just incapable of being able to hit a bloke up, or, he just wants to kick it long.
Yep.
Is the Irish lad ready?
Keen. I don't know. I haven't been watching the twos. I've seen a couple of comments there that say that he's coming along nicely, but it might be 2 or 3 weeks away from being. Somebody says 2 weeks. Scoot says 2 weeks. I feel being, and that's probably about right. So I don't think they'll rush him. They'll wait till he's really ready to perform at the level. So yeah, he's probably 2 or 3 weeks away.
Yeah, so look, we might try to just overwhelm them with marking power. They've got a couple of good defensive key position players, but we might decide to really try and make ourselves a bit hard to match up on. It's going to be very interesting. I think selection will tell us a lot about how Nix wants to have the game played. So it's going to be quite interesting. And given that it's a night game on a Thursday night, you might find that we scrub it up a bit and we go in small and try and scrub it up a bit with and maybe play a McAdam as a sub.
Yeah, and we do need a taller defence unless if McKay, I'm assuming if McKay plays. If he doesn't, we might be able to go in a little bit smaller down the back line, but I don't think there'll be too much change down there.
Yeah, now De Koning for them is out on concussion protocols, isn't he? I think.
I didn't know. Did he come up with? Somebody says no in the chat.
Now they're not talking to me.
I wasn't aware of him coming off in the game with. Did he come off with the?
I thought he did, but I might have been mistaken. Anyway, look, yeah. So selection is going to be really interesting because there's a few different ways they can go, and like I said, I think what they put down on paper will be really indicative of how we want to play the game because there's a couple of different ways that we could play this game. The midfield matchups are going to be key. One last one I want to ask you about. Benny Keys, Macca, how do you think Benny's travelling?
I think he's travelling well, actually, because he's being used as a jack of all trades at the moment, and that's what I do like about him is the fact that he can go in the centre, where he can play on a wing, he can play on a half-forward flank, you can just let him run around like a headless chook. He's actually, I think he provides value to the team. His kicking, of course, is never been the greatest, but I reckon he's improved a little bit with it. But and he's got good pace as well. So somebody says headless chook, but no, I like Keys in the sense that you're going to get 100% effort from the guy, and he will never ever give up. So to me, he plays.
Well, I think he plays. I don't. There's been a few times where he's been what I would call goal hungry. There was one specific occasion where he just needed to give the ball off to Rankin, and he didn't. And I think he's been told to have a ping, to not be afraid to have a ping. But the guy's kicked 1 goal 6 for the year. I think his value is as a pressure forward and a pinch hitter in the middle when we need to shut the game down. We saw him go into the middle with Sloane at periods during the third quarter, and I think that was very effective. But I just want him to be a little bit more aware of the fact that he's like, there are better options up forward than him trying to have a shot for goal.
Oh, hell yeah. You look, you wouldn't want him kicking for your life. You'd actually be ordering your coffin, I reckon. No, but I think around the ground, he does give you good value because he's good in a contest. He's got pace. He's prepared to work hard. But, I wouldn't have him necessarily. Look, as you said, twice he could have passed off to an unintended player much closer to goal and would have probably got a goal out of it. And he's a horrible shot for goal. So, but at this stage, with the side we've got now, he's of value. As we build up, he may be the one that flips out.
Well, I think as we build up, it might end up being a competition between Keys and Lockie Murphy.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I feel like we could play Murphy. We could actually give Murphy more midfield rotations, if you ask me. Wouldn't be the worst thing. I'd like against a weaker side. I'd like to see them try that.
I don't know. Well, I think to me, I've always seen Murphy as that outside player that somebody else does the work and then he takes the ball. Although he can't, I'm not saying he scribs it or because he can dispute a ball, but he's
Murphy. No,
I reckon
he's a clearance player. He's a clearance player, Macca.
I know he is, but a lot of those clearances are from running past somebody who's at the bottom of the pack.
No, I disagree. You need to think about that a bit more. He hits packs. He hits congestion. He's not a receiver out of congestion, Macca. Not at all.
Oh, I didn't say no. I didn't say there is a script, but I reckon when some of those runs that he comes from the wing forward, that's when I think he's his true value.
No, well, we vary there because I think his value is being able to be around stoppage and you said so yourself earlier on in the cast. His value is around stoppage, and I think I would like to see him tested at centre stoppage, centre clearances, centre bounces a little bit more, just to see what he brings.
I don't disagree that we shouldn't try it, because the guy does better around the the other clearances. So there's no reason why he shouldn't do okay in the centre. So it's definitely worth a try.
Because he's cleaner with the ball than Keys. In my opinion, he delivers the ball better into forward 50 than Keys. So Lockie Murphy again has been one of these blokes that I think at times has been made to play a role that doesn't suit him. We've all lamented the amount of times as a high half forward how the ball's just been dumped on his head. But I think he was a very, very, very good midfielder at underage. And I just feel like there's something there. And as much as I like Benny Keys' efforts, I wonder whether we get a better version of Ben Keys by playing Lachlan Murphy in that role.
Well, if he gets a chance, we'll see, Fane. There's a suggestion by Vardy Magic with Keys could run with Cripps, which I don't think is all that silly because both of them can run forever. Keys is fit enough to keep up with him.
I don't think we need to run with Cripps, and it's nice for Vardy Magic to make a comment in chat rather than come on and talk.
You're a hard man, Steve.
I would prefer that we didn't run with Cripps. We've beaten Carlton before with Cripps getting 40. I think the knock on Cripps is probably not damaging enough at times. I'd like to see us play our usual structure, to be honest.
Well, I think we probably will. The one area of doubt in my mind is Gallant. Do we stay with another tall up there, or do we bring McAdam in? And that's they are different structures.
Yeah. Anyway, time will tell. And look, I've got to make mention of the fact that over the last couple of weeks, Macca, we've had almost 100 people watching us live on YouTube, which is fantastic. And a lot of those aren't subscribers. So, guys, if you're watching live and you like what you see and you don't mind our ugly mugs, then hit the subscribe button. We're trying to inch that up as much as we can. But even if you don't, it's great to have people along and watching live as well as listening live. And, just know that the comments that you make on YouTube do mix in with the comments that we get from Discord, and they all are mixed in together. So don't feel like just because you're chatting on YouTube that we can't see it. We can see all the chat that comes through. Right, Mac. So prediction for Thursday night before we just tidy up with a few competition things.
Oh, we haven't done our best five thing.
Oh, go ahead. Best five.
Oh, you're going to make me go first. Okay,
Yep.
You always do. So then you can tear mine apart. But I did find it a little bit hard. I went Dawson as our best. I went Murray for second. I went Rankin for third. I went Walker for fourth and Rochelle for fifth.
Walker for fourth.
4 goals.
Nah. He was lucky on a couple of those.
Look, it could easily have been. I had Saligo hanging around there for the spot. I had Philthorpe hanging around for a spot. There were 2 or 3 others. So I'm not saying it. I'm happy with my first 3 locked in, and I'm happy that Rochelle's in the best 5, and Walker could be replaced by one of the others. And I'm quite happy for people to tell me who that is. Because I thought we had a lot of players that played well. Oh, Lead. Sorry, no, Lead should be in there instead of Walker. Sorry, Lead for Walker.
All right. My best Murray. I'm going to stick with Murray as my most valuable player. Dawson, Thilthorpe, Rankin, and Rochelle.
Yeah, look, as I said, we had about after you get through Murray and Dawson. I think after that. There was a heap of players that were vying for the last 3 spots.
It was a very even performance, wasn't it, Mac? All right, so tell me, what do you think about next week?
If we can play 4 quarters or even 3 quarters of good football, I think we can win it. I honestly do think we can win it, but it can't be like in and out all during the game. We must have a period where we can dominate. Because they'll definitely have a period of domination as well, because they do have a very good midfield and they have very good forward. So we've got to really maximise every opportunity when we've got the wind behind us and our tails up. We've got to really have a burst that gets some good score on the board. I reckon it'll be a high quality game, because there are some very good players playing in both sides, and we've beaten them before, and I think we can do it again.
Mate, I think the key to this game is how our 3 intercept defenders play. Duday, Michael Annie, and Hinge. I think if we can cut off enough supply and put enough pressure with third man up on McKay and Charlie, they don't have a lot of other scoring options. Their percentage isn't all that big, despite having, probably the best 1-2 punch up forward in the competition. And I feel like if we can get in front of those blokes, then we will dry up their scoring, and I think that's probably going to be the key. We'll want to obviously break even through the middle, but I think it'll be our interceptions across halfback that are going to be the key, and then whether we can convert enough up forward. I think, we've shown over the last couple of weeks that we can kick a winning score. The knock has been holding the other team to a decent score. And we did that against Fremantle, but they didn't have the firepower that obviously Carlton brings over this week. But I think, despite the fact that we probably don't have the gilt-edged quality of key position tools, I think Murray will do enough and Geordie will do enough as long as they're assisted by Hinge, Duday and Michaelani.
Yeah, we have got one day less to recover from our game than they have. They played Saturday and we played. They played Friday and we played over Saturday. But I think that at least we weren't travelling, and we didn't play in excessive heat or anything like we did against GWS. So I would think that between our coach and our fitness guy, they should be able to work out how to manage the team to keep it fresh, and that's what they have to do: keep the team fresh.
Yeah, I don't think the turnaround will be a big deal. Modern footy, it's pretty standard to have short turnarounds. It's when you have them back to back that it starts to get a little bit weigh the team down a little bit. But I think we'll be all right in that regard. All right. Well, it sounds like we're both in favour. Do you reckon we're going to get up? Like, give us a margin?
I don't think it'd be if we're going to win, it's not going to be a big margin, but it could be as high as, say, 16 points.
16 points, Mac.
Yeah.
Right. Now, obviously, the round isn't over yet, but I think it's a pertinent opportunity, Macca, just to talk about fantasy. And one in particular that I think deserves a mention is the match of the round this week between some bloke and Seasgirl. And I just wanted to put this up because I'll see Seasgirl tomorrow, and she's getting absolutely walloped at the moment. Seasgirl, I thought you might provide a little bit more opposition. But we've both completed 20 out of 22, and I'm a lazy 400 in front. So sorry, Nick.
You met that close.
Sorry, Nick.
Come on.
But the thing that I wanted to highlight, and this, I'm not trying to make Seasgirl feel bad, but I was looking at her interchange, and she's got their defender Fisher Mackesy. Nikki, what are you doing?
Oh my God! Look, she might have not been well or had a drink when she did that.
Oh, she probably definitely had a drink. Nick, what are you doing? Fisher Mac, he's out. What are you doing? Anyway, so it's been. Let me have a look at the fixtures here. It's some close games. Probably come down to the wire. Most people have got a few players left, but I've had a big week this week on fantasy footy, Mac.
Yeah, me too. With one game to go, I've already got my 2 wins in the bag.
Very good, very good. Tipping wise, not so good, but obviously with a couple of games still to go, then with one game still to go,
I'm an average.
Announce those results. Oh, I know you are. You're so average. You're not even in the thing.
No, but even I'm in a couple of others, but I'm 5 or 6. I don't know why I go in it.
Right, yeah. Mick, I can see your hand up there, mate, but I'm sorry, we're up to 1 hour 51, so we're going to have to save it for next week, mate. Look, thanks to everyone who's joined us on the Discord stage and also in the live chat. Thanks to everyone who's also joined us on YouTube. Fantastic stuff. And thanks for all your support on that platform. Macca, it's been a joy once again to look at that olive green curtain.
I'm not going to honour you with a reply, Feed.
I don't think anything can be said about it. But look, thanks everyone. Enjoy the rest of your Easter, and we will be back at the same time next Sunday for another wrap. Farewell.
Yeah, good night all.